Life can sometimes feel like a lot, but you don't have to do it alone. I strongly believe that we're stronger together. Here, we're going to slow down, have real talks, make sense of things together, and explore ways to intentionally grow the life you want. We're going to talk about mental and physical health, relationships, money, work, and community. Welcome to Rooted in Intention with me, Karina Gomez. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode where we're going to be talking all about the dream job, how to find it, create it, and be in it. And today, Shannon is going to be joining me, and she identifies as a multi-hyphenate, which I love. So, Shannon, may you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. So, I'm Shannon Bowen. So, I am CEO of Monsoon Leadership, which provides coaching and training to help people land their dream job and their dream salary. I also call myself a salary whisperer. So, a lot of my clients are nonprofits, and I really help people kind of overcome those mindsets to actually ask for the salary they deserve. But it's also about finding clarity on what they actually want in their job and finding a job that aligns with who they are today, their values, and their purpose. So it's a little bit deeper than just title and money. And because I am a multi hyphenate, I have also started a second venture. Been doing fundraising and communications for 20 years in nonprofits. So I got to know this beautiful world of rare disease foundations through my last organization. So I founded Rare Impact Agency, which is a boutique fundraising and communications agency built to serve rare disease foundations. I also have a million hobbies and I'm always doing a ton of different things. So that's just me. And I'm so excited to be here and talk through how to build your career with intention.
Excellent. Thank you, Shannon. And I am all about the having multiple hobbies. I feel like we have so many different aspects of ourselves and so many seasons in life, and there's always the right hobby for the right time that you're in at that point. And I know that we oftentimes share wisdom about kind of where we come from and our experiences. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your story and why coaching around career and finding the dream job really resonates with you.
Yeah, it kind of came to me. So when I was in the Bay Area, we got to this point where I really wanted to buy a house, but wasn't making enough money. And I was like, okay, what if I made a strategic move to increase my salary? And it worked. And then I could start saving. And then I did that a couple times. And that's how I was able to achieve the life goal of buying a house. During this time, I started coaching my friends on it too. This is how you negotiate your salary. This is how to show up in interviews. And one of my friends, my good friend Liza Dawn, who'll probably listen to this, she was like, you can't just keep doing this for your friends. Like, you need to teach other people how to do this. And so that's when Monsoon Leadership was born. And so I did it for 2 years as a side business while I was working full time. And then now I'm taking it as a full time business, which I'm so excited about. But, it really found me. And I love coaching, I love helping people really embody their strengths and go after what they actually want and filter out the noise of what society tells us we should want. Because in the end, that always feels kind of empty. So, how do we find the right fit for you right now in your life? It's totally, it's totally fulfilling. I love it.
And from my experience, I didn't learn about coaching until maybe a few years into my career. I wonder if you could even just take a step back and share a little bit about that. I know I myself had zero experience around negotiating. It wasn't even something that I had considered. And it was a few years into my career where I actually reached out to someone to help me, even just with my resume, because I was like, I know I have this experience. And it was the time where there were a lot of computer systems that were first reading through the resumes. And I was like, I don't know if my resume is prepared to be run through a computer and meet all of those requirements. So that was my experience working with a coach in my career. So I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit more of what does coaching look like with you?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients, I'm their first coach they've worked with. And so there's a lot of career coaches out there. There's people who will help you write your resume or your LinkedIn profile and things like that. I dig a little deeper. So when the way I approach resume and LinkedIn is what is your strategic story that you're telling? How are you positioning your unique secret sauce of strengths? You are good at things differently than I am because I've built a lot of teams, I've sat on a lot of hiring committees, and it's not just like, can you do this, but it's how do you do it?
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
if I have a bunch of visionaries on this team and I need a detail-oriented person, but you're never talking about how you approach the work, you're not going to be fit into that role. So I talk a lot about how do you tell the full story of who you are and how you work. And with coaching, we do so in my dream job coaching process, there's 3 Zoom calls. The first one we focus on career exploration. So I have this really in-depth survey that we dig into what do you actually want in your job? Salary, benefits. Yep, we're going to talk about money right away, but also what culture are you looking for? Because a lot of the times when we are ready to get out of a job, it's because we're having a culture misalignment or we're just totally burnt out, which is usually a culture issue too. So we dig in on that. We work on the materials and then we do interview prep, which is my favorite because we hit record, we practice, I give feedback, you do it again, it feels weird, then it gets better, and that's really fun. And then we do a salary negotiation. But I think underneath all of that, what we're really talking about are some pretty deep stuff. What do you want to do with your life? What is the purpose that you want to have at this time in your life? What are those goals that maybe you want to start saying out loud? Do you
mhm,
want to buy your first house? Do you want to take that dream vacation while your body can do it? Do you want to start IVF? These are all expensive things that if your job is not going to be able to fuel those goals, then we have to shift what that job looks like. I really
mhm,
believe that your career serves you. So we talk a lot about you and what you're looking for and how to show up as your authentic self. I had a client say that they think that the interview prep is actually a process of healing because you really start to own your story. And there's always going to be one story, I mean, one question that trips you up that pulls at that old trauma. And to be able to move through it and to own it and not let it rattle you is pretty empowering. So I think coaching is a much deeper process. It's a little like career therapy, but I can't say that because I'm not a therapist, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a lot of important self-discovery and self-growth in those questions. And I think sometimes just having someone guide you through that that's been through that is just
Hmm.
it's so helpful. And I know in some of the work that I've done, there is so much mindset that goes into that process. And I'm wondering if you'd be able to share some of the top mindset shifts that you see in the folks that you work with and or that you've seen in yourself throughout that journey of just developing in your career.
Well, that's such a good question. It's actually one of the best questions anybody's ever asked me in a podcast. I love that. The mindset shifts that I see as that people really start to own their strengths. Yes, I am good at this. Moving away from we all did this to no, I led this. And I think as a society, it's really hard. We're not taught how to own our strengths and not feel icky about it. And
Mhm,
so I love seeing people really step into that, embody it. I love seeing people really own what they deserve. I deserve a healthy workplace. I deserve this salary number. I deserve to have flexibility and to not be shunned to go pick up my daughter from dance practice.
mhm,
So I just really love to see people just, I see their confidence, their ownership, and I don't know, just their shine increase throughout coaching. People can come to me pretty beaten down. So to be able to see those shifts and really to see that they're changing their relationship to work. So that's something that we talk about a lot. A lot of us have the same patterns that we bring with us to every job.
mhm,
And how do you change that relationship to work? How do you shift that this career actually just fits into your life instead of you are fitting into the career? And we really work on that shift. For myself and my mindset shifts, I think that what are my mindset shifts? I think my mindset shifts are that I really do believe that there is the right job out there for everyone. I think that I've had some really tough job experiences, and I think that I, at times, was like, there's no good job out there. I actually just had a wonderful call with one of my executive coaching clients' boss.
Mhm.
Oh, she was lovely. And I was like, oh, look at that. A caring boss is out there who wants to invest in their staff. There is the right opportunities out there. We just have to help people find them and to show up as their authentic self and so that they are picking the right thing for themselves. I think
Mhm.
that's been a mindset shift for me.
Yeah. And I think you pointed so many, I would say, important points about how to, I guess, really dive into like what is your mindset and some of the questions that you were talking about earlier around finding that clarity for yourself. Like, what do I actually want? And envisioning that before even jumping into the job search process or the job application process. And one of the other points that we were going to be talking about is about creating the dream job. And one of the things that comes up for me is creating it in terms of having that vision and going into the job market of like these are the things that are important and feel in alignment with me, and also being able to create it maybe in terms of creating your own business and that type of thing. But one of the other aspects that comes to mind for me is around the leadership that you can bring within a job as well, and the leadership for how you show up and the leadership for how you engage with others. And you talked a little bit right now about executive coaching, and I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about the practice of being a leader and creating the job environment that really fits with you.
Yeah, I think that's such a good question because it's easy to find the examples of the bad leaders. It just is. And we have a lot of toxic leadership. But there is also some good leadership out there, and the people that want to work with me want to be good leaders, right? They
Mhm.
want to do the behavior change. They want to have that strong reflection practice. So something I was coaching a recent client who just got a job, and she'll be managing a team of three. And the reason that she left her past job is she cared a little too much, got a little too
Mm,
involved, the boundaries blurred, and it burnt her out. So we were talking about entering this new job, and I was like, okay, so how are you going to set those boundaries early as a gift? Because if you give too much too fast, you will not retain, and they need you to retain.
mhm,
As a team needs their staff to stay for a couple years to build the systems and the trust. So even though if you feel like, oh, I'm withholding, you're actually not. By setting those healthy boundaries, you will actually be able to stay longer. And then you model to them that it's safe to also set a boundary with you.
mhm,
And I really appreciate that of when I know that I've had a really high performing team, it's that nobody feels scared to say, hey, I'm not feeling so good in the middle of the day. I'm just going to take a couple hours and lay down
mhm, mhm,
because it's not scary. It's safe. And we're humans and our bodies don't work all the same every day, right? Some
mhm,
days you're on top of the world and you're super fast, and other days it's like trudging through mud. But to be able to be honest with your supervisor about that is that helps you retain. So I think with leaders, I work a lot on how can you be honest about what you need
mhm,
and model it and create that safe environment where everybody can be honest about what they need because we all need different things.
mhm,
And that helps us all to work together and be like, hey, you're really good at this, you do that. I'm really
mhm,
good at that, I'll take on that. Or someone's going through a really hard time, we got you. Go offline, we'll take care of everything. And
mhm,
that's when a team is really performing and you have a really strong leader at the helm.
mhm. I really like that message around just like showing up with intentionality and how that really starts with you. And just my quick plug, because I'm probably going to be doing this quite a bit, is if you don't know how to set boundaries, I didn't even know what a boundary was. Definitely do some therapy. Always start there. And then I feel like coaches always help you in just like setting those and implementing those and seeing what it could actually look like within your workplace. But just, I couldn't go without saying that because you never know. And one of the other things I wanted to dive into a little bit more, Shannon, is you were sharing about obviously you could be intentional about how you show up in the workplace and what energy you bring, how you protect your energy so you could show up as your best self, because I think you're absolutely right in if you are able to show up as your best self, it's going to influence those around you. And I think work is all about the teams that we're on. And I know I've had thoughts sometimes around like what is within my sphere of control within a workspace and what is outside of my sphere of control, and just sometimes pondering of when to make that transition out of a job. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit, whether it's through your own experience or work that you've done with clients, what that looks like if someone is debating leaving a job, the types of things to maybe ponder a little bit, really take into account.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my clients come to me before they've left their job and something isn't working, a mismatch, or they've tried to advocate for a raise and promotion. It didn't go well. There's new leadership. The culture has shifted. Those are often reasons. We'll talk through first their financial goals.
Mhm,
And does it make sense to change jobs or not? Because I always say money is real. We're not going to just do pie in the sky, quit our job, and be like, oh, I'm going to start a business with like no business plan.
mhm,
I want you to be able to afford your life and not get into a debt hole. So we talk about that first. But I think that the main thing that we talk about is, have you advocated for yourself and it has not gone anywhere? Do you want to try and advocate for yourself first before you leave? Because, sometimes it's not safe. So there
mhm,
are toxic situations where it is not safe and you just need to get out. And, sometimes those involve lawsuits and very
mhm,
serious things. Sometimes it's just a misalignment.
mhm,
But we will talk through what it looks like to advocate for yourself internally first, because sometimes people do end up staying at their jobs because we actually get them what they wanted there. It just, they needed the coaching to be able to know how to ask.
mhm,
And, but then, if you have big financial goals, and you need to be making 20, 30K more, the odds of you getting an internal promotion of that amount are very low. It's usually 10K or less. In that case, if the money is the top priority in your life right now, then we need to change jobs. If it's flexibility, creative freedom, and you have that at your job, and maybe the money isn't so important, maybe we can advocate for whatever you're looking for, a title change or a small amount of money or whatever. But we have to dig into what are the priorities right then, and
mhm,
then how, does a new job serve that? But I think we can get a little idealized that a new job will solve all of our problems,
mhm.
and we'll just start off as this shiny new person in a new job. But guess what? We bring our same self and our same behaviors and habits to a new job. So maybe we might want to work on those now before
Yep.
we switch.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think this applies in the workplace as well as any other aspect of our lives. If there are recurring issues that we keep seeing over and over again, if we don't address them, they're only going to continue to show up. And yeah, sometimes you don't know what the issue is. And I think having someone to work through that is so helpful. And I love that you said that sometimes people think that the new job is going to solve everything in their lives. And I know sometimes there's this idea of the dream job. And one of the things is sometimes people get that dream job, get that dream salary, and it doesn't actually end up solving all of their issues. I'm wondering if you've had any experiences with clients that kind of saw themselves in that situation, and what are some of the things that still came up?
It happens all the time. To be honest, is there a problem in the name Dream Job Coaching? Yes, because I do believe there's dream jobs. I don't believe there's a perfect job.
Mm,
I think there's the right job for you right now. Okay, a lot of recurring things that happen. So I work with a lot of nonprofit individuals, but I work with people across all sectors. They're usually driven by some purpose or impact they want to make in the world. That's usually a commonality. Even if they're a landscape architect or an HR trainer, they're still driven by this desire to create something lasting. A common issue that I see is people want to get in there and prove themselves really fast. And so they'll volunteer, 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 volunteer. Guess what? They're stretched thin, burnt out. They don't know how to get out of it. They've set unrealistic expectations. So everybody's grabbing their time, everybody's adding to their plate. But it actually started with them. and their behavior to kind of address their insecurity by volunteering a lot. So, how do
Mhm.
we walk in feeling like I don't have to prove myself? I've already proven myself by getting this job, that I can set a sustainable pace and not feel worried about it,
Mhm.
and that I can, you know, say maybe no or not right now to projects. And that's a very common thing. Another thing is sometimes people will feel like they never get credit for their projects and that their boss is always taking credit. And this will happen a few different times. And it's like, okay, how are you building a relationship with that supervisor so that you are expressing early on that part of what makes you feel good at work is when you are given verbal praise. Because as a manager, something I ask all my new teammates is, how do you like to be congratulated and rewarded for a project? But a lot of bosses don't ask that. So how do you say, like, it's really important for me to, be acknowledged for the work that I've done, either
Mhm.
verbally or in writing? And then that just gets you on the same page and you don't have all these misunderstandings and you don't feel, just like you're negative in a corner having a hard time. It's like you are actually communicating with people and building something together. And that will just make you feel happier and have healthier relationships at work. But these are new skills for a lot of
Mhm.
people and they're uncomfortable at first. So a coach can help you get through the discomfort.
Mhm. I agree. The skill set of being able to slow down at a new job and just pause. I know I've found myself in that situation where you're also just filled with like excitement and you
Hmm.
want to hit the ground running, and something like called you about the job. And sometimes it's hard to just like slow down and be like, okay, let me see how can I ease my way into this? And I think the way that I've thought about it is one of the metaphors that I've heard of like life is a marathon. And if you start off sprinting and running fast, you're going to burn out. And just how important it is to, again, slow down and also just being very mindful of what it is that you're needing, and kind of going back to the self-discovery and growth phase, being able to ask yourself, like, what is it that I truly need? And being honest, so then that you can communicate that to another person. So if being praised is very important to you, just like saying that up front. Because if you're kind of holding it in and you're saying, like, oh, like no one's acknowledging my work, but it is important for you, it's okay to be like, hey, I really appreciate this. It helps me go that extra mile, or it's like the fuel that I need. That's completely okay. So I'm glad that you're normalizing that, having those conversations with clients as well.
Well, we have the love languages, right? But we don't have those at work.
Hmm.
So, you don't know that words of affirmation are super important to your team, or acts of service. I mean, that
Hmm.
shows up at work all the time. I mean, even gift giving, as a manager, you usually give a little gift to your team members, during holidays or birthdays or when new people come or go. So, those they do translate over into work, but we don't think about that. We're just like, just do the
Hmm.
job. But we're
Hmm.
actually humans trying to co-create something together. And we bring a lot of the stuff from our personal life to our professional. So, how do we get brave and say, I actually really do love a thank you note when
Hmm.
I went above and beyond on a project?
Hmm.
Fine, that's easy to do as a manager. Happy
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. I love that. And I hadn't thought about bringing the love languages into work. So my brain is doing a little rewiring right now, Shannon.
Yeah, physical affection doesn't really work at work, but the others.
Yeah, that sexual harassment training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like time spent together, I know that I, as an executive leader, have had periods of time where I've gotten really wrapped up in whatever issue or change management that's happening. And I've had team members reach out and say, hey, it's really hard to get on your calendar, and I really would like to be able to get on your calendar, if I need to. And it was like, wow, what a wake up call. And so I immediately like cleared part of my calendar and started saying no to meetings that I didn't really need to be in. That maybe I just said yes to because it kind of made my ego feel good that I was asked to be in it. But really, my top priority is to my team. And
Mhm.
so I was really grateful that I had that team member that helped me realign, my schedule with my values.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I just think we just need to learn how to talk about ourselves and what we need more at work.
I completely hear you with that. And I know that there's this vulnerability and sharing what it is that you need. And sometimes there's a little bit of difficulty in being vulnerable. And maybe I'm bringing in some gender bias in here. Excuse me, all, but from my life experience, sometimes vulnerability is easier for females. And Shannon, I'm wondering if you've seen any particular tips with maybe some of your male clients in being able to be vulnerable, or if I'm actually completely off and you've seen that it's pretty easy to communicate, or there's like similar challenges within the genders.
I do think there's similar challenges than genders. Now, I'm a little biased because the people that come to me are naturally open, vulnerable,
Hmm.
growth mindset, lifelong learners. Those are just natural elements of all of my clients, male and female and other genders. So, I do think that I've seen it both ways. And actually, the story I just told was actually a male coworker that said that to me. So, and I appreciated that he could be vulnerable of like, hey,
Hmm.
what I need from you as a supervisor is your time and availability. And yeah, I learned a lot from that coworker. They taught me a lot about how to really be brave of expressing boundaries, but also needs. And yeah, they inspired me a lot.
That's great. And thank you for sharing that. And for those who might not know, I come from a Latinx background, and I feel like, I guess, from what I see and sometimes my circle is just sometimes still elements of toxic masculinity. And I think just being able to hopefully hear you share about, hey, it's a practice and it's a skill set to show up vulnerably. I think it's just maybe something that other folks need to hear. And
Absolutely. I think we all need to work on it. We all have a pretty thick facade at work. And, I don't believe that it's fully safe to bring your full self to work. So, especially if you're a BIPOC individual, there's a lot that is unsafe at work. So, I'm not saying that, but I do think you can show up as your authentic self. And I
mhm,
think you can express your needs in a way that builds a better system for yourself, but without making you feel unsafe. And I do
mhm,
think that there is a medium there that we're all still figuring out collectively and then individually as well.
mhm. And can you share a little bit more of what do you think about when showing up as your authentic self?
Yeah, I think that I can give a concrete example of in my last job. So while I was at my last job, I have older parents, and so I had to move them from Phoenix to Seattle and clear out their house of 40 years, which was the hardest project of my life, and actually to live in Arizona for 3 months. And
Oh.
I had to really tell my staff, my coworkers, my boss, like, this is a big part of my life. I'm not going to be as available as you're used to me being during this time, but it is temporary. We'll get through it.
Hmm.
And then once they moved here, is I have, a lot of doctor's appointments I have to take them to. So I really had to not hide it and be brave that this is actually a big part of my life and I'm going to make it work within the time period. But um, and then my staff felt more comfortable of like, hey, I'm going through this, or hey, I have this series of doctor's appointments. We're doing tests. We don't know what it is, and instead of hiding it. And so I think that vulnerability just rippled out into having a stronger relationship with each of my team members, and us not hiding our humanity.
Hmm.
So, but I think showing up as your authentic self is, like not hiding your strengths. So, I'm an endlessly creative person, but I have definitely been at jobs where it's like, oh, I'm not gonna share my ideas because people won't be open to them, or they'll try and take the ideas. I've had that too. So then I really
Hmm.
had to work in my career to find environments where it was safe to bring all of my ideas, explore those ideas, and innovate and not be at a place that's really rigid.
Hmm.
Probably why I've never worked at a university. We're not a good fit. But really, for me to identify that that's a core value that I bring to work, and it also is something that makes me happy at work. So I
Hmm.
had to find environments, and I didn't always work in environments that were like that,
Hmm.
that I could safely be creative and innovative. So that's something of authentic self. On a kind of more personal level, I'm a pretty funny, humorous person. So if I'm in a place where I don't feel like I can, be silly, that is also really tough for me.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, two things come to mind from what you just shared. I think one element for the authenticity piece is how it can be a process to fully open
Hmm.
yourself up and just recognizing that, to what you said, we're humans, we show up as humans at work, and there's relationships that we have with coworkers or contractors or anything like that. So it's going to be that process of creating trust. And I know from my experiences, it's oftentimes like sharing a little bit about yourself in this like natural rhythm. And then as you grow with people, you kind of open yourself up a little bit more. And I also want to just recognize that sometimes it does not feel safe being your full self, and kind of the importance of just DEI efforts, for
Hmm.
instance, and bringing more awareness around like different cultures, different belief systems, and being able to create those safe places for people to be able to show up authentically and feel safe in order to do so. And one of the other things that was coming to mind around authenticity and kind of tying it back to the beginning of the conversation of finding that dream job and the importance of taking into account company culture and
Yes.
the vibe that people have within interviews. And I'm wondering if you can share maybe a few questions that people can use to gauge company culture and see if it's a good fit for them.
Yeah, vibes are real. I really believe that. So every single client I've had that is in a toxic situation that's trying to flee, I'm like, can you think back to the interview process and a red flag? Every single time. The red flags are always there. How do you trust your gut?
Mhm.
So, questions. So we start off with career exploration survey and we talk about what culture you're looking for because we're actually starting to identify what those questions are that you need to ask. Not just, what are you looking for in this role? Fine, fine. So if you've been at a place where you've been bullied to not use your PTO, been there, totally been there.
Mhm.
You might want to ask, when you're in a panel interview, you're sitting down in person or you're sitting down on Zoom, when was everybody's last vacation? And if they say, ugh, what's a vacation? We don't do that. Or they say, oh, I just got back from 2 weeks in Spain. That tells you immediately what the culture is like of using vacation. It's also, good one to ask if you're like, I would like to go into this role to grow. I want to learn and grow in this role, asking, are there any roles on this team or in this organization where someone, rose up the ranks? I'd love to hear that story, or how do you mentor staff internally? What are those internal professional development, but also external professional development? But asking your future supervisor, can you tell me a story of how you mentored one of your staff to grow in their
Mhm.
career? And just asking people those things, you'll get to sense of what is actually going on there.
Mhm. Mhm.
You'll never get 100% full view because interviews are artificial experiences. But I think if you can really tune into what are those important things that are you need to know about this organization, and asking and then really paying attention to the vibes.
Mhm.
You'll
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, there's so much power in questions. And one of the things that comes up for me is that was almost a mindset shift for myself in interviewing, is recognizing that it's still a conversation. And really early on in my career, it felt like there was, I guess, a sense of like proving, or like, I want this like job. How do I answer the questions within the interview? And there's an important skill set that goes into answering interview questions. But I think the other component of it is acknowledging that this is a place where you're going to spend possibly 40 hours a week of your life. And you want to make sure that it's kind of maybe fulfilling for you, and being able to ask those same behavioral questions that we're oftentimes asked within interviews as well. So thank you for sharing what some of those questions could look like.
Yeah, I always say we want to find a job that deserves your brilliance, not a job you deserve.
Mhm.
Because this job needs to be deserving of you. Taking a bad offer, it's tough. Then you have to start over again and, emotionally and time and money. And so taking the time to make sure it's the right fit for you, it's just a better investment
Mhm.
overall.
Mhm. And going back to, you are a salary whisperer, and I have definitely been there in taking the first offer that was handed. Again, I didn't
We've
even
all done it.
know about negotiation. And I know I myself, when I learned about even just like negotiating, that it can happen, I went online and I was like, negotiation tips. And I ended up finding some thankful, like so grateful for this person that put a resource online and kind of provided a script for
Mhm.
what that conversation can look like. But so people don't have to go diving into the internet, can you share maybe 3 tips that you have in the salary whisperer role?
Yeah, so number one is that it is a conversation. It's a collaboration. You're both trying to solve the same problem. They want to hire you. You are the answer to their problems. They want you in the door tomorrow. But you also want this to be an offer that feels really good, that you walk in feeling valued day one. So it's a collaboration. You're going to talk it through. So the other thing is that you really want to figure out what is most important to you. Is it salary? Is it flexibility in your schedule? Is it work from home? Is it PTO? Because it's hard to get everything. Sometimes you do, but you want to know what are the most important things that you want to counter offer on. And the last one that is so important is you have to get it in writing. If it's not in writing, it does not exist. So many people are promised things. We're going to start you at this salary, then we're going to give you a raise in a year. If it is not in writing, they have a whole leadership change. You have
Mhm,
nothing to go back on. So getting everything, I mean, we'll go into the office, I'm going to work from home these days a week. My start date is this. I have a planned vacation for this, so making sure everything is in there just to cover you in case of any huge shifts happen in the organization. But, most importantly is what is that number that's going to make you feel really good on day one and feel like I got this?
mhm.
And let's work together to get it.
I love the normalizing that it's a conversation and you have something to offer and the company has something to offer. And it's really about how do we get to a space where we both feel good about moving forward? Because if you start off on the wrong foot, I feel like that is just telling you a little bit of what the environment might look like if those conversations don't look well,
It's not going
to
to get
start
better.
off. Yeah,
So you
yeah.
might as well know now.
Hmm.
And sometimes the conversations don't go well.
Hmm.
Sometimes offers are rescinded very rarely. Only one of my
Hmm.
clients that's ever happened. But you learn a lot about your new boss. And if
Hmm.
they're not going to budge on anything, they're never going to advocate for a raise or promotion for you.
Hmm.
And if you're in a growth moment in your career, that's not the right place for you.
That conversation is just going to continue to highlight what going back to the company culture can look like. And if you were like me and it's something that you start off later, it also gives you an insight to if you stay at a company long term, what does growth look like and what do those conversations look like with either your boss or your manager or supervisor? Uh,
Absolutely. That is all intel that you need to know. And sometimes you're in a growth phase of your career, and sometimes you're just kind of maintaining. You just need this job to be stable for a period of time. Maybe you have some other stuff going on in your personal life, and you just need this to be stable. So there's different needs at different times. But if you're in a growth phase, you got to have the right supervisor that wants to invest in you and the right culture that's going to help you grow.
and speaking of having the right culture, Shannon, if folks are interested in working with you and identifying what is important, where can they go to either hear more about what you have to say or possibly work with you?
You can find me at monsoonleadership.com. I'm also on LinkedIn a lot, dropping hot takes there about the job market and little tidbits and insights from coaching. So there's always some juicy posts on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Instagram, but a little bit less. So I have free Catalyst calls that you can sign up at any time. Tell me what is going on at your job and what your dreams are, and then we'll work together to get it. I forgot to mention another cool part of my coaching that is new is we have these two amazing reports. So we have the career clarity report, which takes your insights from 2 coaching sessions, your career exploration survey, 3 job descriptions, and your resume, and it gives you a personalized report of exactly what types of jobs you want, what to say yes to, what to scroll past,
Mm.
and then how to position your strengths. So these are exact phrases to use in your resume, LinkedIn, and cover letter to really show who you are and how you work. So that's pretty cool. And then at the end, which is very much aligns with your podcasts, we have a report that we give to clients at the end that showcases the journey that they've had through coaching. What are those important pivots? What
Mm.
are those mindset shifts? What are those commitments that they've made to themselves and how they want to show up next in their next job? So, very excited to offer these juicy little personalized reports because who doesn't love reading a story about themselves?
Exactly.
So, it's really fun. So, yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out through my website. I'm here. I love helping people find a job that fits who they are today.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. I appreciated hearing about everything dream job related. And if folks are interested in how to create it, be in it, build in it, I hope that they reach out to you. I know I have had the pleasure of working with you, not in a coaching space, in the nonprofit sector, and you were a wonderful person to work with. So thank you for
Thank you.
that. And right before we hop off, I have one additional question. Can you share one hot take that you have?
About what?
Anything that we talked about today or what's going on in the
Okay.
world?
I was like, I got a lot of hot takes. So we're going to need a category here for me to narrow in. Yeah, I think my biggest hot take about the hiring process is that people do lie in the process. So people will post salary ranges. They're not really ranges. They never intend to pay the top of the range. They're always going to pay the low to middle range. Or people will completely reshape a job title or job description at the end. I cannot fix the entire job market. I do not like these practices, but they do exist. So, really going with open eyes, crossing your T's and your I's, having someone else read your offer letter. Just be careful because there are some shady people out there and they're trying to get your labor for as cheap as possible. So, and if they're doing that, you don't want to work with those people. Move on to someone who actually deserves your talent.
The reality of what happens in the workplace. Thank you for
Yep.
that, Shannon.
Thank you for hosting this podcast. I know it's going to help so many people, and it's just really inspiring to see you go down this path.
And we are changing the world one conversation at a time.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right, that's all for today, everyone. And if you got at least one thing out of today's episode, I would greatly appreciate if you took a moment to write a review and maybe even share the episode with at least one friend. And you can easily send in your review, any questions or suggestions for future episodes via text by clicking the link in the show notes. All right, bye. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Rooted in Intention. Until next time, and remember to keep showing up for the life, relationships, and community you want. Now go, grow the life you want